All right, everyone, what's going on? Bryce Gelman here again with another short form video. I did one last week about Anthony Volpe. If you missed it, you can go check it out. It's pretty evergreen. He still sucks. So, yeah, check that out on my YouTube. Today, there's no better time. There is no better topic than the New York Football Giants. Opening week Sunday against the Commanders in what is said to be one of the most hyped up seasons in recent memory. It's the first time in 6 years that Daniel Jones is not set to be the Giants' starting quarterback. There's hype, there's excitement, and today I'm going to be talking about what a successful season will look like. Not necessarily my expectations, not necessarily my thoughts going into the season, but what a successful season could look like for the Giants. I just first off wanted to start this by giving a little disclaimer. The idea, this is just my thoughts about the season and what I expect it to look like. And I'm just going to do this in like 30, 40 seconds. But this season, yes, it's extremely hyped up. The Giants do have one of the hardest schedules in the NFL. It was the hardest. Then the Cowboys traded away Micah Parsons to the Packers. The Giants will have to play as well. But still, this season is extremely difficult. The schedule, almost impossible. The Giants over-under is set at 5.5 games. And it isn't that simple. They go like over doesn't necessarily mean a successful season, but either way, this year could mark the beginning of what will be a special few years to come for this organization. It is massive. It's a make or break season for not only Joe Schoen, but Brian Daboll as well, who were given another season to go out and draft their quarterback, draft the guy they think could be the future of the New York Giants. And they've got an extremely short leash. You've heard it time and time again. The Giants and John Mara want to be successful this year. They don't want another season in which they go 3-14 and look like an absolute embarrassment. So that's how I wanted to set all this up. That this could be the first step in what could be the turnaround for this franchise. And you're already starting to see that with a little bit of a culture shift. And if you want to hear my full thoughts on this, you can check out One Giant Step, my podcast with WFAN's Sean Morash. Wherever you get your podcast, I'm going to link it down below. You get my full thoughts twice weekly Giants podcast. Obviously more than this. A successful season for the Giants. So let's get right into it. Again, as I mentioned, 5.5 games. That's the over-under for the Giants. And you look at the schedule, and there are 4 games, in my opinion, that are must win. And it starts with the Saints. And the Saints, here's the thing. The Saints in week 5, it's after the 4-game stretch in which the Giants may not win a single game. They have an opportunity in that game. Let's say they do win one of the games. Let's say potentially that they knock off the Chargers. They beat the Cowboys. The Saints game obviously isn't as important, but either way, out of all the teams the Giants will play, there are 2 teams in which you could look at, and I think the 2 games in which the Giants are actually favored out of 17 games, but it's the Saints, and then it's the Raiders later on in the year. Those 2 games especially, absolute must-wins. So those 2, in my opinion, the Giants need to win 1 game against the Cowboys. They need to win 1 game. Against Dak Prescott, the Giants are 2-13. They need to buck that trend. The Cowboys, new head coach. They just traded away arguably their best player. There are a lot of question marks with them. This cannot be same old Giants-Cowboys rivalry. It cannot. And it needs to start with this year. So that's another must for this season. Those are the 3 games. 4th is the Patriots game. Primetime game, Monday Night Football, later on in the year. The last game the Giants will play before their bye week. Speaking of question marks, there are a lot of question marks surrounding the Patriots. Will Drake May take that step up? Will the Patriots look more competent under Mike Vrabel? A lot of question marks with them as well. I still think, and this is all fluid and set to change as we start to see this season unfold. You never know about these other teams. I'm going to get into a few of them, especially with the Patriots, who on offense don't possess that much talent. There are a lot of question marks. They drafted Travion Henderson. He's a rookie running back. He could be really good. They used draft capital on him that a lot of people didn't expect the Patriots to use. But it's all up to Drake May. So we got to see about that. But starting from right now, before the season, before we've seen anything, that's a must win for the Giants. So that's 4 games right there. Again, their over-under is 5.5. So let's look at the rest of the schedule. Let's look at some other teams the Giants could potentially knock off. My eyes, when looking at the other teams, the other 13 teams the Giants face, I guess, would that be 9 teams, 10 teams? Catch my friend. Looking at all those other teams and other games, my eyes immediately go to any team who struggle with their offensive line. Teams that either have injuries or major question marks with the offensive line. I look at the Chargers, who lost their Pro Bowl and second-team All-Pro tackle Rashawn Slater earlier on in the offseason. That's a massive, massive loss. Yes, they replenished their offensive line in the offseason, but you cannot replace a guy like Rashawn Slater. That's one team I'm looking at. I'm looking at a team like the Chicago Bears, another team that bolstered their offensive line, but a team with major question marks, considering the fact that they've got a new head coach who I do believe in. I think the Bears are going to be really good. I think Ben Johnson is an offensive mastermind, but still, there's no guarantee that they are that team. There's no guarantee that Ben Johnson could turn around Caleb Williams' trajectory of his career. There's no guarantee that he can fix the struggles that Caleb Williams faced in his rookie season. I also look at San Francisco, a team that obviously has some high-end players. You know, Trent Williams, Fred Warner. They've got the Christian McCaffrey. They've got those top-end guys. But we saw what they did last year. And they still got some injuries on the offensive side. And Brandon Ayuk, who knows how long he'll be out for. Will they be frauds yet again? I don't know. That's another game that I'm looking at for the Giants to potentially have a huge upset. And this isn't necessarily just the teams that, struggle with offensive line. This will become more and more clear as the season goes on. Still, before the season. No games been played. Injuries happen. Shit happens. As the weeks unfold, we'll start to get a clearer picture of which teams the Giants will have an easier time beating. There might be injuries to quarterbacks. Who knows? But either way, these other games are extremely tough. I know it's very simple to say if the Giants win 6 games, they go over their over-under. That's a win? Sure, it is. And that would have been the simple answer to give you instead of doing a 10-minute video here. But there are a few other games, few other teams that the Giants will face. And they need to upset one of them. They need to upset the Lions. They need to upset maybe the Commanders. They need to upset the Eagles in one of these games. They need to potentially beat the Packers. One of these teams, one of these really top-end teams, the Giants need to beat so that Brian Daboll and Joe Shane could look John Mara in the face and say, look at that. So that's just the schedule. And last but not least, and honestly, most importantly, no matter when the Giants decide to go to Jackson Dart, because it will happen. Originally, you thought it was, week 10, week 11, bye week, maybe after that. Now people are saying week 4 and 5. He won the backup quarterback position outright because of how he played in the 3 preseason games. He will play. He will start at some point in this year. You can take that to the bank. So not only do the Giants need to go over their over-under win total, Jackson Dart has to look, I'm not going to say just as good, because now he'll be facing starters and some of the best players in the NFL. But he has to look competent. He has to show flashes of brilliance. Because if he comes out and looks like a deer in headlights in the regular season, there will be massive questions about whether or not the Giants made their correct selection. And I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. There's obviously a lot of hype surrounding Jackson Dart. And you heard from everyone and their mothers. Not only do the Giants need to upset one of those teams, need to go over their win total, Jackson Dart has to look like the future of the New York Giants. And that's it. That's it. If the Giants check all those boxes, this season is a massive win. And you will see Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen back as the head coach and the general manager, respectively. Again, if you missed it, I said it earlier, my more in-depth comments about the Giants week in and week out, twice a week, the preview podcast and the reaction podcast to each Giants game, One Giant Step, with Sean Morash and myself. You can check that out wherever you get your podcast. Again, I'm going to link that below. It's a good podcast. Seriously, this is a reputable host with me and Sean Morash and myself by extension. But it's a good podcast, and we put out some good content. So if you enjoy this, you're going to enjoy that a lot better. All right, that's all I got. Let's go Giants. I am so stoked for this season. And hopefully we are not sitting here in week 5 and week 6 signaling the end. For what? The third season in a row? It's the Giants season. Let's pray. Go Giants.